What's cracking, my ho-ho-hos? It's that time of year again where we thank our Lord and Saviour Gabe Newell for bestowing upon us the blessings of extremely cheap video games. With basically every game on Steam on some kind of deep discounts, it can be pretty hard to sift through and find some games that you actually want to play. That's why your favourite elf is here to go through and find the best deals on strategy games so that you can get that special someone, aka you, the gift they deserve this Christmas. / holidays if you don't celebrate. Okay, right off the bat, we gotta get the usual suspects rattled off real quick. Everything except Tides of Torment and the Blood DLC, funnily enough, is at least 50% off for the Total War Warhammer series, so it's a lot easier to get a hold of all kinds of fantastic lords. If you want some suggestions, check out either my DLC ranking or the entire podcast tier list episode we did, but the spark notes from me are Warhammer 1 to get access to Immortal Empires, and then Thrones of Decay is a banger DLC if you are already in. From Paradox, Stellaris is 75% off, with most of its DLC also seeing a hefty discount of 40% or more. Age of Wonders 4 is 50% off, and for my money is the best fantasy strategy game on Steam right after Immortal Empires. You can grab most of its DLC for a discount of 20% or more, but you do get quite a lot of value in these, so I think it's fair enough. A similar story for Victoria 3, Crusader Kings 3, and Hearts of Iron 4. All of the base games are on 70% and their DLCs are on various levels of discount, and if you're wondering why I never cover these games normally, honestly I'm still learning them because Paradox games, they're too much, alright? Now that they're out of the way, we can get into some other games where I can take a bit more time. Jurassic World Evolution 3 is the latest and most definitely the greatest in the Jurassic Park building / management sim series by Frontier, and it's seeing a 20% discount, which is pretty great seeing as the game only launched at the end of September. It sounds really obvious saying that this is the best in the series, like, yeah, it probably should be, but it's hard to overstate just how well refined the formula is in this game. Building parks has never been so much fun, the maps are massive and a ton of fun to build in, dinosaur needs are as complex as ever, and we're of course seeing the debut of baby dinosaurs, which are beyond adorable. Full disclosure, I did get invited to a preview for this game, so I may be a little bit biased, even though I was paid nothing and had to get up at like 5:30 in the morning to get to London on time. But regardless of all that, I really loved my time with Jurassic World Evolution 3. I really do think that 3 is the one to get if you're going to get any in the series, but if you want a slightly sweeter deal, 2 is 75% off and honestly 75% of the experience. Either way, you're guaranteed to have a blast building your own park and feeding loys to the T-Rex. 2 Point Museum is 20% off and it's the latest game in the 2 Point series that blends management simulation with wacky humour, similar to something like Wallace and Gromit. This one sees you building up various museums with all kinds of displays and attractions and ensuring your guests are having a blast whilst also respecting the rules. These games have always been wacky fun and more so about the joy of experiencing them than min-maxing to the extreme, so if you're looking for something a bit more fun with a bit of depth, then this is a great pickup. This is one of the few games I'm including that I haven't personally played, but Fred has played a ton and spoken very highly of it. Plus, can 95% of 4,000 reviews on Steam be wrong? Anno 117 is 10% off and is a game that I was extremely excited about covering, however, 2 things happened. First of all, CA decided to release their one DLC of the year, which eats up all my time, and secondly, AI art was discovered in the final game. However, if I use all my willpower to put that aside, from what I played Anno 117, from a gameplay perspective, ignoring the AI art, which is terrible and definitely shouldn't be in the game, shame on you Ubisoft, but what do we expect at this point? It does feel like the next step in the series. It features the most complex feature set of any game so far, with the introduction of faith and research, and even without the later stage industry of 1800, it has plenty to keep you busy for a very long time. However, at 10% off, it may be worth waiting until later, especially once some DLC presumably comes out, to take the plunge on this one. Instead, Anno 1800 is on sale with 75% off the base game and 50% off for the Anniversary, which has most of the DLC. Anno 1800 is one of my all-time favourite strategy games, and with all the DLC, there is literally thousands of hours of gameplay in a single save, and there are very few games that you can say that about. It's well worth giving a go, and I can almost guarantee that you'll have a blast. Captain of Industry might be one of the games I spent the most time on in 2025, and for 30% off, I can't recommend it enough for any factory building fans. It is something truly unique with all kinds of methods of transportation and automation, but is a little bit more hands-off than something like Factorio. Instead of building everything yourself, you instead manage an island of workers, and they'll ship items around where needed using trucks instead of belts. Don't be fooled, however, as this is still one of the most complex factory builders on the market and may even surpass Factorio for the level of detail that you can get into. From excavating terrain to mine for ore, to creating trade routes to get rid of excess or fill a deficit, to trains and even spaceships, there is so much to do, and seeing it all in a single save will definitely take you hundreds of hours. This is one of those dangerous games that will devour your time if you let it, without even noticing. There were times playing this when I was so locked in that work, going to the bathroom and even taking off a hoodie because I was too warm fell to the wayside as I was totally engrossed in a factory. I cannot recommend it enough to any factory building fans, and it honestly might be my new pinnacle for the genre. Plus, it's still in early access, and even though the current build is more than enough for a full game, there's still more to come. Foundation is 33% off and is a city builder that came out at the start of the year, and despite what the relatively simple art style would have you believe, it's actually a relatively complex game. It has a very in-depth building system where key buildings can be totally customized, both visually and to allow for more advanced functions. Repeated buildings like residences, however, are built up automatically based on met needs. This, combined with the organic path system where paths are created based on where your populace walk most often, gives cities a very organic feel, which is a ton of fun to mess around with. It is pretty laid back, but has plenty of room for lots more complex building if you really want to, and is a great time that I can't recommend enough. News Tower is 20% off and is a more recent release from the middle of November. This one sees you managing a newspaper in 1930s New York, and sees you literally building up your own news tower to meet the ever-increasing demands of your city and your readers. It's another game with a surprising amount of depth, as more and more systems get introduced over time. At first, you'll simply be sending off your reporters to produce stories, but eventually you'll be taking on jobs from the mafia, mayor's office and more as you fight rival papers to beat them out of neighborhoods and expand your readers. Every aspect of gameplay here is a ton of fun, from deciding which reporters to send where, to building up and decorating your tower, to assembling the newspaper itself. Every detail of making a newspaper has been carefully considered, and it all comes together to create a gameplay loop that is as fun as it is addicting. It's one of those perfect games where you hop on for an hour only to see the day melt away as you keep thinking to yourself, just one more week. Town to City is another chill city builder that's a lot more focused on enjoying the process than min-maxing to gain as many resources as possible. It's coming in at 15% off, and in the time I've spent with it, I really do think it's well worth the price of admission, as long as you know what you're getting into. If you are looking for a game where you can take a small town to a bustling metropolis, you are probably going to be disappointed. Ironically, the worst part about this game is the name, because you're not really taking a town to a city at all. You're building up small towns into big towns and enjoying the process of doing so, whilst cramming in as much decorative detail as you can. It's very freeform and focused on the micromanagement rather than the macro, with roads literally being painted onto the ground completely freely, and buildings being able to be placed practically anywhere. This allows you to make some truly beautiful towns, but can also be a little bit tricky to get used to, since things generally look pretty dookie before they look good. That said, you've still got to make sure the needs of your population are met to ensure consistent growth and income. As well as this, you'll need to manage research to unlock new buildings and decorations to keep progressing your town into the later game. It's extremely laid back and is more about the journey than the destination, so as long as you think you'll enjoy that, you should have a great time. Islands and Trains is a cheap game at the best of times, but at 40% off, it's a steal for practically pocket change. This is the most chill game I'm featuring today, as there are no resources, or time limits, or really any mechanics at all. All there is a wide open map, and various tools for you to fill it. It's a sandbox game about building train sets on islands, and maybe I'm just reaching a certain age, but this game really does it for me. There's something about planning out a route for your train to take and slowly filling in the various decorations and buildings and telling your own little visual story that really reeled me in more than I thought it would. Throwing on a podcast and playing this, the hours simply melted away, and I spent far too long making areas of my little town and justifying why everything was where it was in my own head. It's a niche game, as you really need to find and create the fun for yourself, but if you're into building cute things, I really think you should give this one a go. Warfare Legacy Collection brings games that I spent countless hours on into the modern world and is currently 20% off. Warfare 1917 and 1944 were originally browser games, and when I was young, poor and had too much free time, I used to play the hell out of them. They're now on Steam looking better than ever and are pretty much the games you know and love all over again. I'm not going to lie to you and say that they are really complex and give you endless hours of entertainment, but they are fun, arcadey tactical games that require just enough thought that you can second screen Home Alone 4, or whatever it is you crazy kids are watching these days. It is a bit of a selfish pick since these games are remarkably niche, but still, I played them this year and I had a total blast. The Altars is 30% off, and whilst it may not be strictly a strategy game, you do have to do a fair bit of planning with all the base building and management to survive. If you don't know anything about this game, you are trapped on an alien planet all by yourself, but the base requires a bunch of different skill sets to function. Of course, this leaves your only choice to be change decisions made at key points in life to alter how that version of you turned out and create some clones. It's a really cool game conceptually, and honestly the story and interactions between the Altars is the real attraction, more so than the base building. But the daily tasks and gameplay loop were enough to keep me going all the way to the credits. Plus, it got a free content update relatively recently with all kinds of fun cosmetics, so there's never been a better time to hop in. And for a final game, I actually have an envelope here, and it contains a game on sale that I haven't been told. So the final game on sale during the Steam Winter Sale is Claire Obscure Expedition Oh, come on! In all seriousness, Expedition 33 is 20% off and is well deserving of every single award it has been given, and much, much more. This is one of the best games I've ever played, both from a story and gameplay perspective. Technically, the combat requires some strategy with all the various synergies and builds, so I'm counting it, you can't stop me. If you're wondering if the game can really be so good that it deserves all of these awards, just play it and you'll find out pretty quickly. My game of the year, my new favourite game of all time, and something that is well worth playing for everyone. Okay, almost done, but some quickfire games that I may not have played personally, but I've heard some great things. X4 Foundations is a massively complex space empire management game that is 90% off. Planet Coaster 2 I've played a tiny amount of purely because of time constraints, but it's the latest theme park builder management game from Frontier and is 50% off. Thronefall is constantly recommended to me by Cody Bonds and is a tower defense city builder and is 35% off. Megabonk is this year's Vampire Survivors with fast-paced 3D insanity, all for 25% off. And Midnight Suns I have played and mentioned on previous videos like this, but it is still such an underrated gem. Its card building turn-based combat is endlessly fun, and the story and character interactions are endlessly cringe, and for 85% off, you are losing money if you don't get this one. And that's all I've got for you for today, but there's literally thousands more games on sale, so if you spot something I missed that you want to tell everyone about, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you did, subscribe for more, and if you want more videos on buying guides, then check out this DLC ranking for Total War Warhammer 3.